Okay, we have episode 8 of the alternative future of the world. That's not what I meant to do. We have a union happening between Ecuador and Colombia. I just want that one square there. You see that square? That's not the square I wanted. How far do I have to zoom in for this? There we go. So a pretty big union happening there. And then Colombia decides to have a war with Venezuela. Yes, very smart. So basically, they just start invading. They just start invading Venezuela. They're mostly focused on this northern part here. They're mostly focused on this northern part here. And they start invading. That's not what I meant to do. 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 And they start invading Venezuela. But not like that. No. They start invading Venezuela. Bruh. That's not what I fucking did. Okay. So we have... Did I do that? We have Venezuela pushing back a little bit, especially in this area over here. Let me push it back a little bit over here. But it's mostly Colombian forces here that are just overwhelming the Venezuelans. Just overwhelming them, basically kicking them all out. Kicking them all out. Kicking them all out. If I could just get that airbrush, that would be nice. So they kick them all out. Even though this is their land, they kick them out anyway. But not like that. God damn it. Kind of like, okay. Did I literally hit back. There we go. This is why I use the utensil here for more specific areas where I can't mess up the coast. So I start invading. You do have some counter forces here in the south of Venezuela. So they start pushing back in the south of Venezuela. They capture around here and in the middle. But then we have Colombia just does a sweeping, not a sweeping victory, but they just sweep up here in northern Venezuela. They sweep up here. I know it's hard to do with the airbrush, isn't it? Nearly impossible. So they start taking over here. So I can't mess up that coast, man. They start taking over. Start taking over like this. And then you get some pushback from Venezuela down here, like this. But Colombia doesn't really care. They want more coasts up here. They cut off Venezuela from the coast in a lot of these places. Yeah, I need my utensil here. So they cut off Venezuela from the coast. And then Venezuela surrenders, basically. Because they're losing, they know they're going to lose all this land up here, and this island's going to be invaded, and it's just not going good for Venezuela, so they surrender. Now we look at the peace treaty here. It's going to be drawn based on the lands that were taken, but roughly, you know, not exactly, kind of roughly. And then Colombia gets a little bit of land there, and Venezuela gets some land back. Venezuela gets a little bit of land here, but loses that. And again, some of the borders around here. So Colombia and Venezuela didn't really have good relations there, especially since they were part of two different organizations. We're gonna fix this here. There we go. And this here we're gonna fix. That is Brazilian there. And this yeah, there we go. And then you want to fix all this up here. I know it's like a kind of a not really a border dispute, like a full-on war, especially since this started technically World War IV. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. And Venezuela got to keep this island because they surrendered. Okay. And part of the treaty is that Venezuela has to be neutral. They are not neutral. So that means all their islands are neutral too, because that's part of Venezuela. Because they took it over in one of the previous episodes. That's Grenada right there. St. Vincent and the Grenadines and St. Lucia. Those islands have been taken over by Venezuela too. Let's just make sure we are very well aware of this. Okay. Now Guyana feels cornered here, so what they do is they just become neutral. Okay. Now, this basically started World War IV. Because they attacked a fellow CSTO member, so they just fight an all-out war basically in Europe. Specifically in this region that Russia's not too happy about. So they start attacking Polish troops. Start firing. So they just start attacking them and killing them, taking over, all that stuff. Now, Poland's like, whoa, 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 buddy, what are you doing here? They start invading down here and pushing back some of those Russian troops. But they're no match because the Russians poured all of their troops into this area because they were well aware that this was going to happen. So they start cutting off Poland from the sea, or that's their plan. They start pushing into Poland like this. Now, they start an offensive, pushing into Poland, just rapidly pushing into it. Now, Poland pushes back, but it's no match for the mighty Russia. Poland pushes back, just tries to push back. Russia keeps pushing forward. And they try to cut off Poland from the ocean. This is their plan. To make them surrender. They're trying to cut them off from the ocean. Now, while this is happening, German troops are being sent over the border to Poland to fight against the Russians. And it will take them a while to get there, so the Russians, that's the wrong color, the Russians start pushing through like this. They start pushing through. Now the Polish, they push back a little bit. They reclaim a little bit of their coast. Like this. But it's no match for the Russians, like I said. They push through, and then the Russians eventually meet up with the German troops, which just completely push back the Russian troops. Back into Kaliningrad. They push them out of this region. And there's probably some U.S. troops here and bases, so they're also helping to push back the Russians. For Christ's sake, they push them back. They push them back to Kaliningrad. They push them out of Poland. They just keep pushing. Keep pushing. Like this. But the Russians, they have troops. A lot of troops here. So they start pushing back. There's a lot of casualties. They start pushing back, trying to get this coast back. They succeed pretty well. And since there's so many casualties, they agree to a ceasefire. Okay, but that's not the only thing that's going to happen. Serbia is going to attack Montenegro, start taking them over. They're going to be pushed back a little bit. But no match for Serbia in this timeline. So they take them over, and Montenegro surrenders. Now we're going to look at the peace treaty here. And Montenegro is just crippled, basically. And Serbia takes all the land. And Montenegro joins the CSTO. Or actually, they have to remain neutral. Or actually, they have to be part of the buffer zone. Okay, it should be clarified which of these islands these belong to. These are Croatia's islands. Those islands. Whatever's left of Croatia. Now, North Macedonia is afraid that they might be attacked, so they rejoin the Western Alliance. Same with Hungary. They're a little afraid of Serbia there. And that's a ceasefire up there. We have another war. This is in Turkey. So eastern Turkey starts invading Western Turkey. That's the wrong thing. We need to airbrush. They start invading Western Turkey. Now, Western Turkey has a lot more resources and manpower, so they start pushing back, just taking over Eastern Turkey. They just take them over basically like this. Eastern Turkey regrets their decision by a lot. They start pushing back, but again, they're no match for Western Turkey. Like no match whatsoever. Like no match. They start pushing back like this. Oh yeah, the thing about the buffer zones is they're supposed to be neutral. They're not allowed to be attacked by either side. By either the CSTO. So that's why Turkey's not invading Syria right here. So yeah, Turkey starts invading the CSTO part of Turkey, and then the eastern part of Turkey surrenders. Now, they get completely fucked here in this treaty. They get completely fucked here, basically. What's going to happen is Turkey takes quite a bit of land here. They get completely fucked, like I said. And then there's a new buffer zone state that's created, like this. New buffer zone state that's created. So this buffer zone is middle Turkey, basically. And then this just becomes part of Turkey. I mean, they're basically reclaiming land that they already had a while ago. And then that's about it. Alright, now for the peace treaty in Russia. Now, this is going to be a long war. I guess probably it'll break into the next episode. So we'll just finish up this part of the war in this region, and then wait for the next episode. So this peace treaty looks something like this. They basically draw it along lines that were occupied for the most part to not anger people too much, giving a little bit of land here and there, make it as fair as possible. Don't piss off anybody. And then there's also drawn a buffer zone. There's a buffer zone that's drawn. So a buffer zone And then the borders are drawn elsewhere like normally. Again, another buffer zone. They want to stop the wars. I know these different colors are making it hard to color this in. So buffer zone. Yes, it's independent from Ukraine over here. It's not the same buffer zone. This is a buffer zone, and this is a buffer zone. We're going to edit this a little bit. It's going to be a little bit different than this. It's going to be widened a little bit. So it's a buffer zone. They really want to make this a buffer zone. There you go, that's a buffer zone. Czechia remains neutral. They're pretty much surrounded by potential allies that they could join at any time, but for now they're going to remain neutral. Now the India-Pakistan border might be a cause for concern during this war. Same with the India-China borders. And the Southeast Asia is going to be a problem too. Probably these islands might get invaded, stuff like that. And obviously South America is probably going to be the next area where there's some wars. But that's about it for this episode. Episode 8. Also, Azerbaijan is just chilling here, hoping nothing will happen to them. Turkey got a little bit of the land back. Yeah, basically that's about it that happened. And a few other things, fusions. Oh, that was last episode, the fusions. But yeah,